Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join our webinar on private traffic. To learn about what it is, how brands have leveraged it to provide better customer experience, and how you can actually start driving your own private traffic with WeCom, or formerly known as WeChat Work. My name is Shiana, and I'm the marketing manager here at ChatLabs. And before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions at any point throughout this webinar, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will address it at the end of this webinar. So without further ado, I will let our speakers today, Catherine and Tom, introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine, and I think, sorry. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine. I'm a project director from Fabernovel, and I mainly manage digital innovation and also marketing projects for our company. And I also lead the white paper studies within our company, which of the content you will see this particular one on private traffic. And Tom?
Thanks, Catherine. My name's Tom, VP of Strategy at ChatLabs, and I'm usually in China, Shanghai, where I'm usually based, where I lead our teams. At the moment, I'm in the States, but hope to be back to Asia soon.
Okay, just a really quick word about Fabernovel. So we're an innovation consulting and marketing agency, and we offer a full value chain of services from strategy to execution. And we have 15 years of experience in China. I'm based in Shanghai, and we are helping brands to build their digital strategies and to monitor their marketing activities on a day-to-day basis. And we work with a lot of different brands across different industries. So we are very strong in luxury fashion and beauty. You can see we work with a lot of major groups at a corporate level and also brand level. At the same time, we're working with industries such as hospitality and finance.
Yeah, and then a quick word about ChatLabs. So we're ChatLabs. We are a global company, offices in America, China, India, soon to be London. We're opening an office in London actually in a few weeks in December. And so we're excited about that. As a company, so we primarily focus on technology, and we really are a WeChat solution provider on many fronts, really with the focal point for us being our partnerships. And so we're partnered very closely with Tencent, both at Tencent Cloud, the WeChat level, and the WeCom level. And then we're also very closely partnered with Salesforce to provide Salesforce integrations across the Salesforce product suite into WeChat, whether that's mini programs, official accounts, or WeCom as well, and really helping brands kind of drive the data from WeChat back into their CRM systems.
Great. So thank you, Tom, and we are very glad to have you guys all here today to join our presentation. And I will start my part with how private traffic is becoming a strategic growth lever for brands. And before we start, I wanted to discuss a little bit why we got interested in this topic. So you guys probably have heard of a brand called Perfect Diary, and they're a very young brand, just 3 years old, but through this 3 years, they really achieved exponential growth within the China market, and they're a Chinese brand which is very digital native and targeting young consumers. And they become, within 3 years, they become the #1 brand in cosmetics category on Tmall last year. And basically what they are trying to do is, the very interesting thing is they are using private traffic as a brand strategy to really grow their brands in China. So they are recruiting their, basically having all their consumers to be pulled through e-commerce channels and also offline stores and other platforms they are on into their WeChat group private traffic management. And through this practice, they acquired 5 million users within their private traffic pool as of December 2019. And they have a whole army of employees basically managing private traffic within their own company dedicated to the private traffic practice. And they are able to generate the GMV between 300 million to 500 million in 2019 alone. And you can see because of this like huge success within private traffic by Perfect Diary, we really see brands started to look at this as a possibility to help them to grow their brands. And also that's why we started to look into this topic. And before we dive into the specifics, I wanted to mention briefly how we did our research. So first, we dived into some reports and articles that basically came out this 2 years after private traffic got popular. And then we started to audit some of the private traffic WeChat group chats to really get into them, because as you probably know, it's not publicly accessible. So we really got into those chats and to observe the brand practices, get firsthand insights through our observation. And we audited over 30 brands to see some interesting practices they have, which we'll share later in the case study session. And so to talk about private traffic, it's actually not a new concept as everybody seems to believe, because it existed back in the early days of the internet as online communities. So before we actually started to talk about private traffic, we already have this, like all this community chats on like QQ, on Douban, on Baidu, where merchants are pushing their products, coupons, and also where people are discussing about products and exchanging ideas, inspirations regarding like fashion, beauty, or any other type of products. And that's also a part of the reason why it was so easy, so natural for Chinese consumers to embrace private traffic in such a short period of time, especially particularly within WeChat. And we wanted to give you an overview of some of the key milestones of WeChat private traffic development, because that's what we are focusing on today. And back in the days in 2013 and 14, Taobao merchants already started to see the advantage of having WeChat as a channel to help them to drive their customer relationship building. And they also, because of this, and we have various type of brands or like Taobao merchants to start kind of try to scale it up in different ways, including Ctrip. And then Tencent see this potential within WeChat, and then they kind of made WeChat Work, which is WeCom now, compatible for WeChat group management, which really empowered private traffic management. And in 2019, as we mentioned, Perfect Diary really popularized this idea of private traffic and really attracted attentions from different brands to look into this. And this year, because of COVID-19, all this client interaction had to be taken online, which actually accelerated the development of private traffic in China. And let's take a step back to take a look at some of the common points that all the brands are facing nowadays. So for the first one, I think if some of you guys are probably working for brands, you already identify this, is there's the decreased online engagement and conversion is real. And you have really less and less lever to play the really expensive e-commerce and paid media game. And it's a lot of competition on the market. It's very crowded. And also the every brand is trying to fight for the very limited screen time everybody has. So we can see it's a lot of difficulties brands are facing to kind of grow their business and to attract more consumers and to retain them. So that's where private traffic comes into place, where we see that it's really like a powerful tool to help brands to effectively acquire and also to retain their customers. So mainly because of its two features. One is it's decentralized. So it really reduces the dependency on paid media and e-commerce, and you can have all your consumers in your own hands and build a first direct connection with them. And the second quality is it's very conversational. So as we mentioned, people like to ask about opinions, and people like to have a more personable type of interaction with other people. And this actually helps the brand to increase the repurchase within the group sharing and also strengthen the brand loyalty. And after talking about the two main qualities we see for private traffic, I want to explain in a little bit more details in terms of what private traffic actually is. So it refers to a customer pool, which can be reached freely without constraints of time or where you are. And it really allows you to build an intimate and direct relationship with your consumers. Traditionally, what brands are doing is to attract the consumers through their public traffic pool, maybe through paid media or all these platforms you see here. And they will probably make their first purchase, but the interaction basically stops here. And you don't have a lot of data if you're going through platforms of your consumers, and you probably don't have a chance to re-engage them in a very consistent way. So what private traffic helps you to do is to draw all these customers you have attracted through your public traffic pool, and then to have them within your hands, and then to manage and to retain them, eventually to drive repurchase, which actually have a very strong loyalty loop you created through this whole combination. So what we're talking about here is not public traffic versus private traffic. We're talking about basically both of them are empowering you to grow your customers. And none of this are actually should be private traffic shouldn't really be replacing public traffic, but more like working together and to make your public traffic investments more effective. And because today we're focusing mainly on WeChat for private traffic, so I want to briefly mention or introduce to you the three main touch points within WeChat for private traffic management. So the first one is group chat. I think if you're a WeChat user, you're probably familiar with this. And for private chat, it's one-to-one communication, and a lot of brands are actually already leveraging this for their sales associates. And same for Moments. I think the greatest benefit of Moments posting is that you can share your product and brand information, basically functioning as a Moment ads, but without paying for the advertisement. So that's a really cost-effective way to communicate about your product and brand. And we also identified the four main business objectives through our auditing to see what brands are using private traffic for. And these are the four we identified. So first is to provide personalized services to your customers and also your prospects. And at the same time, we can cultivate the client retention and advocacy by sharing brand content, product content, and useful information to also provide services, of course, to really build this, strengthen the relationship with the customers, and eventually drive repurchase and boost your customer lifetime value. And one of the important things we observed, it's very interesting, is that it actually can help you to gather firsthand feedback and insights of your products from your consumers directly. So you can test whether a product is functionally liked by your consumers, and also you can see what people like about your product, and then to help you to find the marketing positioning or message when you launch a new product. So that is a very interesting point, I think, for brands to have a more agile way of product development or marketing. And after this, we're going to dive into a few case studies which kind of corresponds to these business objectives. So the first one is a case by Volvo. So as you know, it's a car brand, and what the main objective of their private traffic practice is to, through the dealers, to create this community of car owners. So you can see on the left side, they have a very strict group rule. So all the members who join this group, they have to prove they are car owners of Volvo. And they are mainly based in Beijing. If you read Chinese here, you can see it's a Beijing Volvo car club. And everyone has to pay for a badge, which is 180 RMB. It's sort of also like a membership fee comes with the badge. And you have to visit the store to obtain the badge, which kind of help you to drive traffic offline. And at the same time, one of the most cruel, I would say, rules of this is members must actually attend their offline events, and they cannot skip more than 6 times consecutively. Otherwise, they will be kicked out of the group. So you can see all this high entry requirements and all the kind of strict rules is trying to build a really engaged community with high stickiness. And they feel like they are really like relevant within, like the content here is really relevant. The people here are probably they can identify with, and they are very willing to share like content and a lot of videos and pictures you can see on the right hand side they shared. And they also exchange on like how to drive vehicles, and they also ask questions to the group owner to see like whether there's maintenance problems and things like that. So this is a really great way, I think, to build a community that believes they are at the right place, and they are very active within their own private group chat. The second one is by Max Mara, and they are much more like transaction driven for this particular case. What they were trying to do is that they have this pop-up event, basically taken pop-up stores from offline to online. And they have a kind of this limited time flash group that dedicated to this pop-up event. So on the left-hand side, you can see they also have rules, and they are telling everyone in terms of when the pop-up event is taking place, when the sales associate is available to answer their questions or take payments. And they also are trying to prevent people from posting irrelevant information and also advertisement, of course, within the group chat. And the group mainly only like basically lasted for 4 days, and they only drove like VIP customers into this group. So it's also very exclusive. And you can see on the second screenshot, they are trying to share product photos, more like taken by the sales associate from more real-time, type of angle, and to share about products. And they have an interesting practice of limiting all the product availability to around maybe like 3, so at a special price, which attention is not really discounted price, but special price, limited quantity. So you have to be in this group to be able to get it. And then the third screenshot, you can see there's a group member kind of expressed interest in purchasing the product. And then individual sales associate is actually dispatched to take the conversation to more like one-on-one conversation. And then they have all this, cash transfer and address, contact information to be like this conversation to be happening on a one-on-one basis. So it ensures also the privacy, of course. So this is a very interesting case because it's more on luxury side. People are trying to create more like conversion-driven type of events, but having them on the WeChat private group chat is a very interesting practice. And the third example we're going to give is Luckin. So you probably know they have a lot of stores, and they are trying to scale up their private traffic management through like store-specific segmentation. So I don't know if you guys know, but Luckin has a lot of distributors, and not all of the stores are owned directly by the brand. So they might have competing type of problems. And what Luckin did is everybody can, like all the consumers, they can scan the store QR code to join a sort of a benefit type of group chat where they can get discounts. And then this QR code is kind of unique to the user's location. So after you enter the group chat, it's actually store specific. But the mini program, you only have one mini program hosted by Luckin. So whenever the customer orders on the mini program, they are actually tagged by the group ID. So the order will go directly to the store, which recruited the customer. And then there will be like, resolution of basically conflict of interest between different stores. And also they are operated by WeChat Work, which helps them to really kind of manage and organize all these conversations and accounts in a very effective way. And last but not least, it's also a great way to incentivize the store staff to drive people to this group chats, because actually the revenue will go to the store. And the next case is also, we find a very interesting case, is that, I don't know for your brand if you have the same situation, but Stage Q is a masstige makeup brand based in South Korea. and they are only selling in China through Sephora. And they entered the market actually just this year. And their problem is because they are working with a retailer, they don't have the customer information at hand, and they have very limited knowledge of who they are selling to. And what they are trying to do is to build basically their own community where they can share product information, although the sales still is driven to Sephora's mini program, but they at least know, like, have a direct connection with the consumers. So in the future, if they are able to like bring their brands to have official presence in China, either offline or online, they will have an existing pool of customers to leverage, which is really great for a small brand like this. And also because they have this whole private traffic practice, they are able to achieve a sales uplift of 28%, which is pretty impressive. Next example is again a car brand. It's NIO. So it's basically the Chinese version of Tesla. And what they're trying to do is a very integrated sort of approach where they combined transaction and also community building and service providing within this private traffic practice. So what they're doing is they have a lot of non-sales related events, because one of the key things NIO is trying to do is really to build a community that are interested in the same lifestyle and not only limited to cars, but they are an actual community. And so that's why they have like all this like offline events, which is non-commercial. And they also have live streaming, which is more product related to showcase their latest models. And at the same time, they can ask in the group chat about questions about maintenance, and it will be answered by actually professional staff as separated as the group operator, which can be two different roles. And at the end, we can see on the right-hand side, they have the pictures of the new car models where they will also send a location of the store so they can drive traffic offline. So we can see this NIO's approach is a little bit more like combining all these elements we were talking about. And it really encourages people to engage and to be the brand advocate of NIO. And the last example I wanted to share is more related to the product launch and consumer insights we were talking about. So Luna Dance Studio is actually a small fitness studio in Shanghai, and it provides like one-to-one type of fitness classes and also group ones. What they were trying to do is that they have this existing group of students who are already like they're regularly engaging with them. And within this group chat, they posted about their new drama class. And then they asked people to comment below and then get randomly selected to participate in this free drama class. So they selected a limited number of people, like 10-ish, and they had this class offline, of course, and then they created this smaller group, which is like the drama class testing sort of group, and they shared like pictures and information. And what's interesting is the group operator followed up with customers to ask for the customers' feedback regarding the class. So what did you think of the class? And is it different from the other ones you attended? And in this way, they are really by offering a free class, they are having free like kind of product and service assessment and to see whether it will work for their market and for their audience. So it's a very interesting, I think, practice, and it can be easily adapted by more like actual product-driven type of brands. And to conclude, we wanted to say, based on the Luckin case, basically it's really important to have the intentional and systematic approach to nurture a community of brand advocates. Actually, this is valid for all of the group chats we were talking about, because you have to know, like the second point actually says that you have to have a clear purpose. You have to ensure all the people that are in the group are talking about the same topic and they're interested in the same topic. And the third one is segmentation. So it's really important to gather like customer information to make sure you are putting them into the right group. For example, you don't want to have a 20-year-old group operator talking to a 40-year-old customer who are probably not interested in the same things as the 20-year-olds, and they don't speak in the same tone of voice. They may use different emojis. So this might not be the best way to manage your community. So segmentation is really key. And the fourth point is the Volvo case can show that high entry requirements, this particularly is more for, I think, more premium luxury type of brands. Exclusivity is very important to manage your type of community, because you want the people who are in the group identify themselves with the other people in the group, and they are not bothered by information that are irrelevant. And they might even have a sense of pride by like being part of the community. And the last point we wanted to mention is that because we wanted to have a sort of service and also community building, and also drive eventually to sales, to have a seamless type of experience, it's very important to have WeChat mini programs when you run your private traffic group chats on WeChat, because it's an enabler to help you to create a really fast process for the users to complete and to purchase. So that concludes my part of the presentation, and we'll take questions at the end. And I'll hand over to Tom to talk about how you can best enable private traffic as a brand, mainly leveraging WeChat Work.
Great, thanks, Catherine. Let me share my screen. Great, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Catherine. So, I think Catherine did a really great job at kind of showing, one, what is private traffic, and then two, how do brands, and really some of the best brands in China, from Neo to Luckin and many others, how do they leverage private traffic to really support their business, support their community, and really the customer experience. What we want to talk about now is something that, we get questions a lot from the brands, that both our team at ChatLabs and the Fabernovel team get a lot of questions from the actual brands themselves is, okay, a lot of brands do this in China, but how do I tailor this for my brand? How do I set this up for my business case or, my global brand? And when we look at kind of the common questions that we get, we really distilled it down to three typical questions that brands come to us with. And the first is, how can I make the chats secure and brand owned? Security is top of mind, and really that question is one that we get very often. The second is then, with private traffic, is it possible to connect that private traffic into systems like my global CRM? I want to centralize all that data. How can I connect it and bring it back into the place where I store all of my other customer data? And then really the third question that we see a lot of times is, hey, my team is really busy. My community managers, my marketing team, my sales associates, they're all really busy. What tools and really how can I best empower my end user, which is my sales associate that is going to be managing these chats? How can I best empower them and really make their life easier to manage all of these new chats and new threads that they're going to be opening up? So with these questions in mind, what we want to cover now are really three keys to enablement. And really covering those three questions, we want to cover three topics. The first is security. So how can you make your private traffic secure and really brand and enterprise enabled? The second is, how can you use CRM technologies to best identify the traffic and the followers and the users that you have in your private traffic? And then the third is how to best engage those chats and really empower, like I said, that end sales associate. So the first key, security, the biggest recommendation that we can make in terms of security is think about how your sales associates are going to be managing those private traffics. The best tool and the best setup that you can really leverage as a brand is going to be WeCom. This used to be called WeChat Work. They've recently rebranded, like Catherine said, from WeChat Work to WeCom. But as a brand, in order to build, a secure and stable environment, WeCom really should be thought of as kind of the go-to tool. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with WeCom, what WeCom allows you to do, and this is a product actually from Tencent, and what WeCom allows you to do as a brand is that you can set up a WeCom account. Your sales associates, your staff can use the WeCom app, but they can actually connect one-on-one or in group chats with external clients. So they can chat with a personal WeChat account from their WeCom app and have a seamless one-to-one relationship. But because it's using the WeCom app, because it's your brand's WeCom environment that you've set up, you get a host of features from identity management to service management, relationship management. But most importantly, and something that we're going to talk a lot about today, is you get full data management as well, both on the contact side, and you can also set up chat archiving as well to really bring that into your enterprise fold. Now, what does that look like? WeCom as an enterprise chat solution, on the right is actually the WeCom app. And that WeCom app is what we would recommend that your sales associates and your community managers use to manage those different group chats that Catherine showcased. And what the WeCom app will allow you to do is you can actually, like I said, add your customers as a one-to-one relationship or in a group chat. And here's an example on the left of what the customer's personal WeChat account looks like. And then on the right of what that sales associate's WeChat Work or WeCom app would look like. And you can see that they can have one-on-one relationships just like normal friends on WeChat. The only difference being for the customer that they'll actually notice that the person they're chatting with has a stamp of approval with the company name that they represent so that they know, hey, this person is verified and they are actually from the company that I want to engage with. And so definitely WeCom is a great tool to use to build those one-to-one relationships. And here's some other features that WeCom does offer. So you can have your contact and your customer list. You can manage different group chats, and you'll even see it's a little bit more advanced than WeChat, where on the very bottom, you can have some quick tabs. So if you want to share things from your product catalog or you want to share some quick replies, you can actually program those on the bottom there. You can have one-to-one chats, and then there's a whole host of other features that you can tap into as well, from calendars to live streaming to meetings, document sharing, document uploads, product catalogs, and really a whole host of other features that I'll talk a little bit about later. But really, it offers that full suite of customer management tools that you and your brand can leverage. Now, if you're going to be using WeCom, which we definitely recommend both from the security and really the offering level, the next thing, like I mentioned, is how can you identify and how can you integrate into that environment? Now, one of the greatest things about the WeCom app is that the WeCom app actually allows you a full integration layer. Previous to WeCom, it was very common for a brand's sales associate, and still brands do this today, where they'll actually allow customers or sales associates to chat with customers using their personal WeChat account. Now, one of the fallbacks, of course, is contact management. So if that sales associate leaves your brand, those contacts are going to go with them. But one of the bigger drawbacks that we've seen now is that the WeChat personal account is a very closed environment, and there's not a very easy way to integrate into that. Where WeCom, on the other hand, is a very open and flexible environment that you as a brand or we as a partner of a brand can very easily integrate into. And so as you kind of build out your private traffic solution, as you build out kind of that clienteling and that chat integration, there's several systems that you can think about integrating into. One of those might be a CRM system. So being able to store that follower, that user's profile data within your CRM system, mapping them to an existing contact, being able to store different task related or activity history. Even things like purchases are really important for you to be able to track back into your CRM. And then, of course, if you want to enable it, you could also enable chat history so that you can have a full record of everything that's sent within maybe a one-to-one chat or a group chat within your CRM as well, in case you need to go back and review that from a compliance standpoint, or if you want to actually, transfer that chat to another community manager, they can go and actually view all of the previous chat history to really better educate themselves about that client who they're going to be talking with or that group chat that they're involved in. Now, there's two other platforms that you might want to consider as well. One is going to be integrating your WeChat store to make it easier for your sales associates to share content, but also to be able to track conversions and purchases. And then another tool that you could think about integrating is actually your brand's CMS. Now, more times than not, this is going to be a China-specific CMS, but really the integration of the CMS into the WeCom app allows you to manage some of those shareable assets. Maybe it's a product brochure, maybe it's a product introduction, maybe it's an event introduction or a webinar that you're hosting, but it allows easier access to your sales associates to that shareable content, and then also the WeChat content that they might get from the official account. You can easily pull that in and manage it for WeCom as well. And then from the WeCom perspective, Your brand can integrate directly into one-to-one chats, group chats, and then you also have the ability to collect the end clients, the end customers, WeChat data, and bring that back into your CRM, like I mentioned earlier. But really integrating WeCom as kind of a flexible platform is really key as you build out your long-term private traffic solution. Now, the second thing that you can do in identification, and something that we think adds a lot of value, but not a lot of brands leverage it, is making sure that you connect into not just WeCom, not just those private chats or those group chats, but also integrating your WeChat ecosystem across all of those touch points. And so in WeChat, your brand might be leveraging a service account, which is that WeChat official account. You might be leveraging a mini program, maybe for e-commerce. And then, of course, with private traffic, using WeCom as that chat solution. These are three pretty common, touch points that your brand might be leveraging. Now, what we would recommend and what we see as great value for you as the end brand is going to be setting up the open platform within WeChat. And the open platform is something that you can register with Tencent. Now, once you register for that open platform, you're going to be able to collect an ID called the WeChat Union Id. Now, the benefit of the Union Id is, let's say that Catherine is in one of my group chats that I manage in a private traffic scenario. Now, what I can do with the Union Id as the brand, when Catherine engages me as the sales associate, I can identify Catherine's Union Id to all of the chat messages that I've had. But what I can also do is I can track Catherine's Union Id back to all of her engagements in the mini program. So every click of a product that she makes in a mini program store, every wish list that she creates, or every product that she purchases, I can track back to that single Union Id for Catherine. And I can also take it a step further. I can even track everything that she does within my brand service account as well. Now, what that really provides your sales associate and your brand is that you're going to track the entire customer journey, the entire life cycle of that client across all of the touch points that you have. And so if you wanted to set up, for example, an alert notification. So when Catherine, my client, visits the mini program and creates a wish list, I, as the relationship manager, I, as the community manager for private traffic, I could get an instant alert saying, hey, Catherine's very engaged. She's creating a wish list. Why don't you reach out and see if there's any recommendations you could provide? Or if Catherine's very active in the service account and she scans a QR code in an offline store, that's another opportunity for me as the community manager to get that alert notification, because we can do that instant tracking, and I can go back, I can build that relationship and check in with her. But really what that kind of connection across the WeChat ecosystem allows you to do is to see everything that goes on, to be able to track that, but to also really build a better relationship with the client, because you're able to personalize really the elements of WeChat, do that segmentation that Catherine mentioned based on what you see that client doing in WeChat. Now, of course, once you've collected that data, it's very easy to then map that, let's say, to a phone number, and then you can bring that back into your CRM system, where in that CRM system, maybe that's Salesforce, or maybe that's another system that your brand uses, you could bring all that data back in, save that in your CRM profile so that you have kind of that center of truth for everything that the customer does. Now, what is the goal? The goal of identification, like I said earlier, is that you want to provide insights to your front line. And so whether that's the community manager or sales associate or the relationship manager, you want to make sure that your staff, your frontline staff, is really up to date with everything that contact is doing. And so an example here, let's say that myself, Tom, is a customer within private traffic. Your staff would be able to, from the WeCom app, click on his profile and then view a host of information that you've collected if you're connected into the CRM and if you're connected into the different WeChat touch points. So maybe that's first name, family name, maybe that's phone number, email, maybe that's VIP status. But we can take it a step farther with CRM data with things like transaction history or client notes. If we're tracking WeChat data, we can track their wish lists from a WeChat store, like a mini program or an H5. And then we can also track all of their WeChat activity from the service account. But identification, in order to really tap into the value of private traffic, identification is really one of those key areas that you need to consider as a brand. Now, as we come in for a landing here, we've looked at security, and we know that WeCom is a secure app and really an enterprise level app. We know that identification is key to build a long-term roadmap on private traffic. But really the third now is engagement. How are you going to enable? And really the question that we want to answer here in engagement is, how do you empower your front line that they're busy, they're in the store all day? How do you better empower them to manage their private traffic? Now, one of the ways that you can empower your team to better manage private traffic, do the segmentations that we've been talking about, creating those more real-time engagements and content sharing, is as a brand, you could consider building a mobile clienteling portal within the WeCom environment. Now, WeCom, because it's an open platform, they do allow you to actually build your own WeCom mini programs, very similar to the WeChat mini programs. And you can embed those mini programs directly into the workspace of your WeCom environment for your frontline staff. And so if I'm a frontline staff member, if I'm a community manager managing a private traffic group chat, I could actually have a clienteling mini program where I can look up individual profiles of my contacts, of my group chat members. I can see, for example, maybe their activity that could be offline or WeChat activity. I could view their transaction histories. I could view their profile information. But from within the WeCom app, I can have all of that data that I would normally get from my CRM or from the marketing team. I can have all of that data available to me in real time from the WeCom app right there in my hand to view at any time. And then I can also do other, engagements as well. I can create segmentations. I can create different surveys. I can create different product offerings or coupons from that clienteling app to be able to directly share one-on-one or in that group chat environment. Now, so that's one area. Another area that WeCom allows you to do is, and this is native to the WeCom platform, is easily create broadcast messages. Now, a broadcast message in WeCom is a little bit different than what you might consider a broadcast message for your official account. But what a broadcast message in WeCom allows you to do is, as you build your book of business, as you build your group chats and your one-on-one chats, that can be a lot for your team to manage. So one of the tools that they offer is you can go in and you can filter and create specific lists of customers. You could filter by, for example, a specific tag. So from your CRM data, you could filter for VIPs in Shanghai, or you could filter for purchases in the past 6 months. Now, once you've filtered for that tag, or if you want to select specific customers, you can then easily create a message. That could be a text message. You can add in a mini program, maybe a coupon. You can add in an image if it's a new product launch. And then you can, with one click of a button, broadcast that out to all of your contacts. And if you're, say, maybe the manager or the marketing manager, you can even broadcast it through the contacts of your other sales associates and community managers to their end chats as well. And so that really allows you as the brand to have control over that environment, but also empower the staff to more easily share content and then more easily manage other environments as well. And there are, on the left screenshot there, you'll see a few other tools that they've opened up for customer management, and they're always opening up new tools as well. And lastly, last engagement that you could focus on, like Catherine said, Moments is a really powerful tool. And within WeChat, a lot of brands pay a lot of money to get their advertisements on a customer's WeChat Moments. Now, what private traffic allows you to do is have that one-to-one relationship. And with WeCom, you can actually post directly to your client's moments from the WeCom app. And so you can go in, you can program a moment. You can do one per day. So you can add some text, some images. You can filter who you're going to be sending that moments post to. And then you can post that, and that's going to show up within that customer's moments feed, just like their friends and families posts do today, but from the WeCom app, so that you can kind of better manage that relationship, but still engage them as they would in other private traffic as well. So with that, 3 key takeaways. First, WeCom, formerly known as WeChat Work, is a phenomenal enterprise level tool that we definitely recommend you as a brand leverage as your private traffic hub. The second is connecting to your CRM for those segmentations and that profile updates are very important. And we definitely want to stress that's a key area of enablement. And then the third is, as you empower your sales associates, think about building that clienteling mini program that could exist within WeCom for your sales associates and community managers to really better manage their profiles and really cut down on some of the work that it takes to really look up those profiles and better share content. So with that, I'm going to open it back now to Shiana, and we're going to go through some Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Catherine and Tom. Let's jump right in because a lot of questions came in and I hope we can cover it all before we end this webinar. But don't worry if your questions aren't answered right now because we have our contact information at the end. So feel free to reach out to any one of us with questions you might have. And we'll also be sending this presentation deck and the webinar replay to you all within the next few days. So yeah, let me take a look at all of the questions that came in. What's a good one to start with? Okay. Someone asked, so for the Volvo case study, Catherine, the high barriers to entry does help ensure more engaged group members, but doesn't it also scare customers off? And what kind of brands would you recommend this kind of tactic for?
Shannon, if you could unmute Catherine.
Okay, great. So for the first question, I think you're mentioning, sorry, can you repeat that a little bit for the Volvo case?
So for the Volvo case study, the high barriers to entry does help ensure more engaged group members, but doesn't it also scare customers off? And what kind of brands would you recommend this kind of tactic for?
Yeah, so I think for Volvo case, it's pretty, I'll say it's pretty special because they are trying to build a community that's actually active enough and so they can create value out of it. And also they have like one-on-one clienteling type of services, which they can provide to the customers. And they always like kind of wanted to make sure the people within the group are legitimate, which will help the people who are there identify themselves with the other people in the group. So because they are car owners, they are probably economically more or less at the same level, and they are interested in the similar things if they are staying within that group. So as I mentioned, they have like non-commercial purpose type of events where they have like trips and they have barbecue and stuff like that. So like without all these like requirements, it's very hard to see like how everyone within the community would engage and would achieve the purpose the brand wants to achieve. So that's one thing. And I think the second question regarding whether it will scare people off, I think it depends on what type of people you want to attract. Because as I mentioned, this type of high entry requirements and exclusivity, I think it works well with luxury brands. So you keep the people who are actually the right profile to stay within your community and to engage in the proper way with the other people within the group. So I think it's actually very important. And I think also the strict rules kind of give a sense of like, you know, like pride and I need to make an effort to be in this group, which actually after you make that effort, you will treasure this group more than just a random group you join. So I think that's actually an advantage instead of disadvantage. I hope that answers all the questions.
Great, thank you, Catherine. All right, another question that came in was, what is the average cost of building a mini program for e-commerce, and what do you think about using WeMob or Yozan for that, or better to hire developers to build in-house?
Yeah, I can take that one.
Okay.
So I think in terms of mini program cost, it's going to depend on your use cases. I think WeMob and Yozan are a good start. That being said, I think if you're a well-established brand with your own brand guidelines, brand identity, brand equity, we don't typically recommend WeMob or Yozan just because the level of flexibility is really not there. In terms of the front end, the UI, kind of the experiences that you provide, really tailoring it to your brand identity is much more difficult when you're using kind of an out-of-the-box front-end builder like WeMob or Yozan. So I would recommend going down the developer route if you're an established brand. In terms of cost and time, I mean, it is really going to vary. I'd say typically anywhere between 10,000 US dollars to 40,000 US dollars, and an average delivery time of anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks.
Great. Thank you for that. And also someone else asked, do you think consumers can get used to using WeCom? Because I think it's a new app for customers. I think, Tom, do you want to take that one too?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, WeCom. So from the customer level, there's really no difference, and it's no difference than chatting with someone on their personal WeChat account. There is an effort that you'll need to use as a brand to transfer existing private traffic on personal WeChat to a WeCom environment, and that can take some time. But from the end customer perspective, there's really no difference between the two, so it's a quite easy transition.
Okay, thank you. Another question for WeCom: how much does it cost? Can you have WeCom without WeChat official accounts, and do you need a Chinese registered company to use WeCom?
I'll take that one there as well. One, you don't need a Chinese entity. You can register with international entities. Cost, there is some small setup fees, nothing worth mentioning. Really, cost is going to come into play if you're looking at things like chat archiving. There is a cost per user if you want to archive the chat, the voice calls, and any documents that are shared. But other than that, not very expensive and quite easy to set up.
Great, thank you, Tom. So I think this one's for Catherine. Catherine, who within an organization do you recommend manages this private traffic?
Yeah, so I think for the private traffic practice, a lot of brands are kind of now a little bit, I guess, are kind of wait and see type of stage. And I think for different type of industries, they might have different approach. But in general, I think it's not a problem having sales associates to kind of be in the group chat. But from our point of view, because they also have their like offline activities, and they don't really have a very like the expertise to actually manage a community online, but they're very good at driving to sales to convert. So what we will recommend is to have experts who knows the topic and know how to push content, how to plan the content, and what's the strategy behind private traffic practice, and then having the sales associate being in the group chat to help in the conversion part. So I hope that answers your question. But now I think mainly a lot of brands are having their marketing teams are looking at private traffic management. Yeah.
Another question came in related to that. Will agencies like Fabernovel, for instance, take care of customer relationship with WeCom?
When you say customer relationship with WeCom, I guess you mean like managing customers within WeCom. I think, yeah, there are two layers. So what we have now is to really help you to identify what's your best private traffic strategy. And at the same time, for sure, we can integrate with WeCom to have a more like organized and systematic approach to make sure all the data actually sits on like within your own company's hands. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, that's the type of service we're providing.
Okay, great. Speaking of data integration, someone asked, if I integrate the WeCom with CRM, will the CRM data be stored under WeCom server? Internal brands may have concerns if data is being copied and stored in other places, like international brands.
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically the integration is going from WeCom into your CRM. And so at that point, there's no data being saved on WeCom natively. And then if you deploy, let's say, a clienteling mini program within WeCom, that data is also hosted on your server, as that's your mini program. It's your brand's mini program that you've set up and deployed. And so it would be used within your technical environment. The only thing that would be, stored on WeCom would be the front end, CSS or some of the front end code, but nothing related to client data. So no concerns there on data leakage or data storing there in WeCom.
Okay, great. Another question related to that actually. How do we leverage WeCom with the brand's WeChat account, WeChat mini program, and third-party CRM platform already in place? I don't think our CRM platform connects to WeCom yet.
Yeah, great question. So, like I shared earlier, I think the biggest thing is identification across all of those touch points. So in your CRM, you should be building activity tracking to say, this is my customer, this is the chats they're having in WeCom, this is the chat, this is the engagements they're doing in my service account. And in my mini program, these are the products that they're looking at in my WeChat mini program. And if you can do that, that's the level of activity I think you want to be tracking across the ecosystem. And then with WeCom specifically, understanding who's the contact owner, who's the relationship builder within that group chat, and then what documents and what insights have been shared to them so you can really track the value. And then bringing that back into your CRM so that you have kind of that central database to both view that information, then also create marketing engagements and automations from.
Okay, great. Okay, Catherine, this one is for you. What are the popular or engaging methods to establish and grow brand group chats to improve customers' retention and loyalty? How could you effectively segment users or customers in group chats?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. I think for the engagement methods, it's really like depending on your objectives. Like we have a lot of examples of like how they're retaining and strengthening the loyalty of people who are within the group chat. A few examples actually we have in our original study, but not talked about today because of the time constraints, is that there's a sort of beauty retailer called Harmay. They are doing basically their private chat with the sole purpose of conversion, and they constantly offer discounts that cannot be rejected, basically like really attractive offers to their consumers. And that really helped with the stickiness, and people are constantly asking about whether a certain product is on sale. And then there's also a sportswear brand called NBA Style. They actually invited KOLs within the group chat to kind of boost up the engagement and to drive like retention, because people can expect their like the people they look up to join the group chat and then to interact with them directly. And also for the Volvo case, I think the retention is really on the value is provided through like the social aspect, and also the information sharing type of things people are getting out of this. So I think within the different type of things you can offer, it's really important to offer what your customer wants. And how can you segment? I think we didn't highlight this in one of the case studies, but Stage Q, when they actually add the group operator who will add you to the group chat, they ask you a series of questions, including your location, your age, not age, but date of birth, because age will change over time, but date of birth, it can, like if you're 20s now, maybe in 5 years, you're in your 30s, and you probably are interested in different type of beauty products. So that's also a way to like, you can base that on your existing information of your consumers. You can also base it on surveys. So I think that's one of the ways to really segment them. And as Tom mentioned, in their like actions taken after they join your group chat in terms of what they purchased, and all this can also be taken into consideration for resegmentation further, like within your own group. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So I think we have time for one last question. Tom, what is the level of effort to implement and integrate the WeCom solution into our Salesforce system?
So and again, it's going to be depending upon kind of the level of integration you want to do, but typically pretty light. So brands like us, we do have pre-built connectors where we can very quickly integrate WeCom into your Salesforce org within a matter of days. So within really about a week to 2 weeks with kind of UAT built in, we can integrate and start flowing that data in, and then we can build upon that.
Great. So I think that's all the time we have for now. But again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any more questions. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day or night ahead.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.